All right, let's get right into it. When you hear the words white phosphorus, you probably picture something pretty dramatic, right? That brilliant, blinding light from military shells. It's famous for being an incendiary, for creating these huge smoke screens, and, well, for being incredibly dangerous.
But here's the thing, the fire, that's only part of the story. The real danger of white phosphorus is actually much quieter, almost sneaky. So how can this element, which is literally famous for burning, kill a person without ever being set on fire? That's the question we're going to answer.
Yeah, this is the image we all have in our heads. A substance so ridiculously reactive that it just bursts into flame on contact with air, and it burns and burns. As the sources say, it only stops when there's zero oxygen left, or when it has completely burned itself out. But this visible, destructive fire, it's hiding a much deadlier, invisible attack. And here is the absolute key to the whole thing. Forget the burns for a second. White phosphorus is what's known as a protoplasmic poison. Now that sounds super technical, but what it means is that it attacks the very foundation of life, the living goo, the protoplasm inside every single one of our cells. It doesn't just burn you, it poisons you from the inside out. So to really get how this works, we have to understand that not all phosphorus is the same. It's a bit of a deceptive element because it comes in different forms, called allotropes. And believe me, they could not be more different. And this chart just lays it all out. It's a total Jekyll and Hyde situation. On one side, you've got red phosphorus. It's stable, it's harmless. In fact, you've definitely used it. It's that reddish-brown stuff on the side of a matchbox. Now, on the other side, you've got its evil twin, white phosphorus. Waxy, violently reactive, and incredibly toxic. Same element, but a total night and day difference in how dangerous it is. So where do people actually run into this stuff? Well, military use is the obvious one, but it's also been used in fireworks, and this is a big one for poisonings. It's the killer ingredient in some really potent rat poisons that makes it cheap, effective, and just dangerously easy to get a hold of. Okay, so we've established we have this really nasty substance, but how does it actually breach our body's defenses to start doing all that damage? How does it get in? Turns out there are three main gateways into the body. The most common one for accidental poisonings is ingestion, eating it, usually from something like that rat poison. Then there's inhaling the fumes, which is a huge risk in industrial or military settings. And finally, it can actually just pass right through your skin, especially if it's part of a burn, where it can get direct access to your bloodstream. And here's the secret to its success, if you can call it that. White phosphorus is lipid soluble. All that means is that it dissolves in fats and oils. And what are our cell membranes made of? A fatty lipid bilayer. So for white phosphorus, that's not a wall. It's a wide open door. It has a universal key to get inside almost any cell in our body. This is absolutely critical to its silent attack. All right, this is it. We're at the very heart of our question. Once this stuff slips inside the body, how does white phosphorus actually kill without any fire? Well, the answer isn't on the battlefield. It's deep inside our own cells. Okay, so check this out. It's basically a 4-step sabotage mission. First, like we said, it just waltzes right into the cell, no problem. Once inside, it makes a beeline for the cell's protein factory, the endoplasmic reticulum, and it wrecks the place. Protein production grinds to a halt, and fat just starts to pile up. Next, it goes for the power grid. It attacks the mitochondria, the cell's power plants, and cripples their ability to make ATP, which is the energy that runs everything. So with no proteins being made and no power, the cell is toast. It starves, and it dies. And that's the big aha moment. This is why it's so deadly without a flame. It's not about heat. It's about a complete and total shutdown of the fundamental machinery of life, happening in millions of cells all at once. It's not a burn. It's sabotage. So now that we've seen the battle at the microscopic level, let's zoom out. What does this cellular war look like for the whole body? Well, it plays out as a terrifying and deeply deceptive 3-stage collapse. The way this poisoning progresses is just famously cruel. Stage 1 kicks in pretty fast. We're talking severe stomach pain, vomiting, which often has this weird garlic smell and can even glow in the dark. But then comes stage 2, the treacherous calm. All the symptoms vanish, the person feels better, they look better, they might even get sent home from the hospital. But it's a complete illusion, because inside, that cellular damage is silently spreading, getting ready for stage 3, a sudden, catastrophic full-body collapse. This quote from a real case study just gives me chills. It perfectly captures that false hope of stage 2. A 30-year-old woman who had ingested rat poison seemed to be getting better. The report says she was asymptomatic. 2 days after this note was made, she was readmitted and died from massive organ failure. It's that quiet period that makes this poison so unbelievably devious. And when that final collapse hits, it is absolutely devastating. All that cellular shutdown we talked about, this is the result. The liver, which can't process fats anymore, just fails. The kidneys shut down. The poison attacks the heart muscle directly, causing it to just give out. And the brain, starved of oxygen and overwhelmed by toxins from the failing organs, slips into delirium, psychosis, and finally, coma. It's a complete systemic meltdown. You know, this silent killer has a pretty long and grim history, and it's left behind a legacy that's a really stark warning about its hidden power. One of the most horrifying examples is a disease called Phossy jaw. Back in the 1800s, people working in matchstick factories were breathing in these phosphorus fumes all day, every day. Over time, the phosphorus would literally cause the bone in their jaw to die and rot away. It was so gruesome and disfiguring that it actually sparked some of the first major labor reforms and bans on using the chemical. So how much does it actually take to do all this? The typical fatal dose is just 1 milligram per kilogram of body weight. For the average person, that's less than 1/10 of a gram. It's a tiny, tiny amount for such a devastatingly effective poison. So when all is said and done, it brings us right back to our main point. The spectacular, brilliant flame of white phosphorus, it's really just a distraction. The real ultimate danger is the invisible metabolic fire that it ignites inside every single cell it touches, systematically shutting down life itself. And that kind of leaves us with a pretty unsettling thought to end on, doesn't it? White phosphorus is an extreme case, for sure, but it's also a powerful reminder. If a poison this potent can hide in plain sight in something as common as rat poison, it really makes you wonder, what other everyday chemicals are out there hiding dangers we just don't see yet?